Our mate. The words were not spoken aloud. They arrived inside my head in a low, possessive whisper, just as I stepped into the executive conference room with a tray of coffee balanced against my hip. I stopped so suddenly that one of the cups slid toward the edge. "Careful," Selene Vale said from the far end of the table. Her voice was cool, controlled, and completely normal. The voice inside my mind was not. "Catch her, she is tired. Why is she carrying all of that alone?" I stared at Selene. She sat beneath the Silver Company logo in a black suit, one hand resting beside a stack of acquisition contracts. Her dark hair was pinned into a precise knot. Her expression held the warmth of polished stone. No one looking at her would have guessed that something inside her had just called me its mate. I tightened my grip on the tray. Then Selene's identical twin turned in her chair. Sabine Vale wore the same sharp features differently. Her dark hair fell loose over one shoulder, and there was usually a hint of amusement in her eyes, though never when she looked at me. "What is it, Miss Rowan?" she asked. A second voice flooded my mind, smoother than the first and twice as delighted. "She is wearing the pearl earrings again. I knew she would. Beautiful Omega, come closer." The tray tilted. Coffee spilled across the first page of a contract worth $80 million. For one terrible second, no one moved. Then I set the tray down and grabbed a handful of napkins. "I am so sorry." Selene stood. Her wolf's voice struck me at the same moment. "Do not frighten her." "Ivy," Selene said, still cold enough to freeze the room, "step away from the document." I obeyed. Sabine took the ruined pages and passed them to the legal director. "Print another copy," she said. "We have 12 minutes. Her wolf purred inside my skull. "She smells like rain and vanilla. Ask if she ate breakfast." Sabine did not ask. Instead, she looked at me and said, "You may leave." I walked out of the room with my spine straight and my heart trying to escape through my ribs. The moment the doors closed, I pressed both hands over my ears. It did nothing. "Our mate," the rougher voice whispered. "Our mate," the smoother voice answered. I had been hearing things for 3 days. The voices had begun after my 25th birthday. At first, I blamed exhaustion. Then Selene passed me in an empty hallway and a rough female voice said, "She has not slept enough." When Sabine later handed me a file, a smoother voice murmured, "Her fingers are cold. Hold them." Now both voices had called me their mate. There were several possible explanations. A neurological condition. A stress-induced break from reality. A rare omega maturation disorder. Or I could hear the wolves of my twin alpha bosses. The last possibility was the least reasonable, which was why it became increasingly difficult to ignore. I locked myself inside the nearest restroom and searched for telepathic symptoms in adult omegas. Medical sites mentioned migraines, scent sensitivity, and rare bond awareness during late maturation. None mentioned full sentences or 2 alpha wolves discussing my breakfast, earrings, and possible mating status. My phone buzzed. A message from Selene. "Return to the conference room. Bring the revised market projections." I stared at it. Her wolf wants to protect me, I reminded myself. Selene herself barely remembers I am human. That thought should have calmed me. It did not. When I returned, the meeting had started. 12 board members watched a presentation about the acquisition of the Aurelia Crown, an old waterfront hotel that the Vale sisters wanted to restore. I placed the revised projections beside Selene. Her fingers touched mine. The rough voice surged through me. "Warm, too warm. She is nervous. Move her away from Marin." I almost dropped the folder. Marin Holt, chair of the board, sat opposite the twins. She was a silver-haired alpha with a pleasant smile and the kind of eyes that counted weaknesses before names. "I believe the projected renovation cost is deliberately conservative," Marin said. "We could reduce staffing and recover our investment 2 years earlier." Sabine leaned back. "That would destroy the service standard we are purchasing. Her voice was calm. Her wolf was not. She wants to turn the hotel into a shell. Let me bite her. I bit the inside of my cheek to keep from reacting. Marin glanced at me. Your secretary appears distracted. Both wolves spoke at once. Do not look at her. I took my seat behind the twins and opened my notebook. Marin continued presenting cuts that would remove pensions, eliminate the hotel's childcare center, and replace local suppliers with one of her own companies. The board members nodded. Selini's jaw tightened. Miss Rowan, she said without looking back, what is the current value of the hotel's heritage tax credit? Every face turned toward me. I knew the answer. I had found it at 2 a.m. while checking the acquisition archive. 23 million over 7 years, I said, but only if the company preserves the original staffing ratio and community programs. Silence followed. Marin's pleasant smile disappeared. Sabine turned slightly. Which means, if we accept Chairwoman Holt's proposal, we save 9 million in labor costs and lose 23 million in tax protection. We would also trigger a review of the waterfront lease. Selini looked at Marin. So your faster recovery plan creates an 11-year loss. Marin's scent sharpened with anger. Inside my head, Selini's wolf sounded almost proud. Brilliant, our clever Omega found the trap. Sabine's wolf replied, I noticed her intelligence first. You noticed her earrings. They are lovely earrings. I lowered my head over my notebook before anyone saw my expression. The board rejected Marin's proposal. After the meeting, the directors filed out in a wave of perfume, paper, and quiet conversation. Marin paused beside my chair. You read the heritage conditions carefully. It is part of my job. Secretaries usually summarize documents. They do not interpret strategy. Selini appeared at my side. Miss Rowan is not a usual secretary. Her spoken tone was emotionless. Her wolf nearly shook the walls of my mind. Back away from her. Marin smiled. I meant it as a compliment. Then deliver it without diminishing her position. Marin left. I stared at Selini. For 18 months, she had corrected my reports in red, returned my scheduling notes without praise, and once made me redo an entire travel plan because the margin spacing changed halfway down the page. Now she had defended me. You should not look so surprised, she said. I'm not. You are. Her wolf whispered, tell her we are proud. Selini picked up the clean contract. Your analysis was useful. It was not exactly pride. But for Selini, it was close enough to count as a declaration. Sabine joined us, holding one of the rescued coffee cups. You take your coffee with oat milk and 1 spoon of honey, correct? I stared at her. Yes. She handed me the cup. Her wolf sounded pleased. I remember everything about her. Sabine's expression remained perfectly neutral. Do not spill this one. I accepted the coffee. Thank you. Both twins watched me take the first sip. Then both wolves sighed. Good. I spent the rest of the afternoon trying not to lose my mind. The voices appeared only near the twins, and their wolves had no respect for professional boundaries. Selini's noticed every loose curl near my cheek. Sabine's wondered whether lemon pastries would make me smile. In the elevator, the wolves argued over which twin I stood closer to. Then Selini's accused Sabine of stealing my gray scarf after the winter gala. I turned to Sabine. Did you take my scarf? She went still. I found it in the company car and kept it for 6 months. Her wolf muttered, it smelled like her. I left the elevator before either twin saw me smile. At 6, most of the executive floor emptied. I remained at my desk, comparing vendor records for the hotel acquisition. The numbers bothered me. 3 construction companies had submitted bids within 1% of each other. All 3 had different names, but their insurance certificates used the same formatting error. I opened the corporate registry and followed the ownership trails. 2 ended at holding companies. The third led to a consulting firm controlled by Maren Holt's sister. I printed the records. A shadow fell across my desk. "You are still here," Selene said. I looked up. "So are you." Her eyes narrowed slightly. Her wolf said, "She has not eaten since noon." "I'm finishing the vendor review." "It can wait." "I found something." I showed her the documents. Selene read them quickly. Sabine came from the adjoining office and leaned over her shoulder. The moment they stood close to me, their wolves stirred. "She is tired. Her hands are shaking. Feed her." Then Selene's focus shifted to the ownership chart. "This link is not disclosed in the board materials." "No." Sabine picked up the bid comparison. Maren recommended all 3 companies. "Yes." Selene looked at me. "Who else knows?" "No one." Her wolf whispered, "Keep her safe." Sabine's wolf answered, "Maren will know she found it." Selene gathered the papers. "You will stop working on this." I stood. "What?" "We will handle it." I found the connection. "And now you will go home." The warmth I had felt after the meeting vanished. "You asked me to review the vendors." "I am changing the assignment." "Because Maren is involved." "Because I said so." Her voice was sharp enough to cut. Inside my head, her wolf pleaded, "Do not make her a target." I looked at Sabine. She avoided my eyes. Her wolf said, "Tell her. She will think we do not trust her." Sabine said nothing. That hurt more than it should have. I collected my bag. "Understood." As I walked toward the elevator, the wolves followed me in broken waves. "She is upset." "Stop her." "Say something." Neither twin did. The next morning, my access to the acquisition files had been removed. I discovered it when the document system rejected my password. 5 minutes later, an email announced that all vendor analysis would be handled by the legal department. No explanation. No acknowledgement that I had uncovered the conflict. At 9, Selene called me into her office. She and Sabine stood near the windows, identical silhouettes against the gray city. "You will accompany us to the Aurelia Crown tonight," Selene said. "The board is holding a private reception for local investors." I thought I was removed from the acquisition. "You were removed from the vendor investigation," Sabine said, "not from your executive duties." Her wolf whispered, "Keep her between us all evening." Selene handed me a folder. "You will manage the revised schedule and record any commitments made by board members." "Including Maren." "Yes." I held the folder against my chest. "So I am too vulnerable to examine her companies, but safe enough to stand beside her at a reception." Selene's expression hardened. "That is not what I said." "It is what you did." Both wolves went quiet. Sabine stepped closer. "Ivy." "No, you do not get to protect me by taking away my work and refusing to explain why." Selene's scent deepened, cedar and winter air. Her wolf said, "She is right." Selene looked almost angry with herself. "The reception is public," she said. "The investigation is not." "That is still not an explanation." Sabine's shoulders lowered. "Maren has removed employees before." I looked at her. "What does that mean?" "It means," Selene said, "that 2 years ago an internal auditor questioned one of her contracts. Private messages were leaked. The auditor was accused of selling company information and resigned before the investigation cleared her." "And you think Maren will do that to me?" "Yes." "Then help me protect myself. Do not erase me from the work." Sabine's wolf whispered, "Brave mate." Selene studied my face for a long moment. "Attend the reception," she said. "Afterward, we will discuss the investigation." It was not an apology, but it was movement. The Oralia crown rose above the harbor in white stone and golden light. I arrived in a dark green dress that looked professional and, more importantly, needed no repair. The twins arrived together. Selene wore black. Sabine wore silver. They crossed the entrance hall with the effortless authority of women who owned every room before entering it. Then they saw me. Both stopped. Their expressions barely changed. Their wolves lost all dignity. Beautiful. Ours. Look at her throat. Do not stare at her throat. You are staring too. I looked down at my tablet so they would not see my blush. Sabine reached me first. You are early. You asked me to arrive at 7. It is 6:54. That is early. Her wolf purred. She looks like moonlight in a forest. Selene's gaze moved over my dress and immediately away. You should remain near us tonight. I almost laughed. That will be difficult. You are both terrifyingly popular. Sabine's mouth twitched. Selene's wolf whispered. She made a joke. Make her do it again. Before Selene could respond, Marin approached with 3 board members. Ivy, she said warmly, what a striking dress. Both wolves growled inside my head. Thank you. Marin held out a glass of champagne. I did not take it. I'm working. Of course, always diligent. Her smile never touched her eyes. Throughout the reception, I recorded promises, adjusted schedules, and listened. Most conversations were harmless, some were not. Marin repeatedly steered investors toward the same construction firms I had flagged. She suggested the twins were emotionally attached to the hotel and therefore unable to make disciplined decisions. Then I heard her tell another director that the board needed an operational safeguard if the acquisition failed. A safeguard meant authority to remove the CEOs. I moved closer, pretending to check the flower arrangements. Marin lowered her voice. The secretary accessed restricted vendor files. We can use that. My blood turned cold. The other director frowned. She had authorization. Authorization can be altered. I stepped backward. A hand settled lightly at my waist. Sabine. Breathe, she murmured. Her wolf was frantic. She is afraid. Take her away. Selene appeared on my other side. What happened? I looked toward Marin. She knows I found the vendor link. Selene's face became still. Did she threaten you? Not directly. She is planning to use my file access against you. Sabine's hand remained at my waist, steady and warm. Come with us. They led me through a side corridor into an empty library. The instant the door closed, Selene locked it. We are ending your involvement, she said. Anger rose through my fear. No. This is no longer open to discussion. It became open to discussion when she used me as a weapon. Selene's wolf said, we cannot lose her. You will leave through the east entrance, Selene continued. Our driver will take you home. I'm not leaving. Sabine stepped between us. Ivy, please. Do you trust me? Both women froze. I looked from one to the other. Do you trust my judgment? Yes, Sabine said immediately. Selene answered 1 second later. Yes. Then stop treating me like a package you can move out of danger. Selene's composure cracked. You do not understand what she can do. Then tell me. Silence filled the library. The wolves moved inside my mind, like restless shadows. Finally, Sabine spoke. We had an Omega cousin named Alara. She worked in our first company. Selene looked toward the dark window. She discovered financial fraud by a senior partner. We told her to step away while we handled it. My anger weakened. What happened? She continued investigating, Sabine said. The partner framed her for theft. Her name was destroyed before we could prove the truth. Did she recover? Selene's voice became quieter. She left the city. She does not speak to us. Her wolf whispered, "We failed her because we believed power was enough." I looked at Selene. "You think history is repeating." "We know Marin's methods," she said, "and we know our own mistakes. Then make a different mistake." Sabine frowned. "What?" "Trust me too much instead of too little." For the first time that evening, neither wolf spoke. Selene crossed the room slowly. "What are you suggesting?" "We give Marin what she wants." Sabine's eyes sharpened. "Your access records." "Yes, she wants evidence that I entered restricted files. Let her alter the permissions and accuse me. But before she does, we preserve the original audit trail somewhere she cannot reach." Selene studied me. "And when she presents the accusation?" "I show the vendor ownership records and the original authorization. She exposes her own manipulation." Sabine's wolf whispered, "Clever mate." Selene's wolf answered, "Dangerous." "I will not use you as bait," Selene said. "You already are. The difference is whether I stand there blind." We argued for 10 minutes. Selene refused 3 times. Sabine asked questions about timing, access, and legal exposure. I answered all of them. At last, Selene said, "If we do this, you follow every instruction." "No." Her eyebrows lifted. "I follow every instruction related to evidence security. I do not surrender my right to leave, speak, or change the plan if I am uncomfortable." Sabine looked at her sister. "She is right." Selene exhaled. "Fine." Her wolf muttered, "Stubborn Omega." I folded my arms. "I heard that." The room went silent. I had not meant to say it aloud. Sabine's face changed first. "Heard what?" My heart stopped. Selene took 1 step toward me. "Ivy." I could have lied. I had been lying by omission for 3 days. But the words were already between us. I swallowed. "Nothing." Both wolves erupted. "She knows." "How could she know?" "Our mate hears us." Sabine stared at me. "You can hear them." It was not a question. I backed toward the table. "I can explain." Selene's face lost all color. "How long?" 3 days. Sabine covered her mouth with 1 hand. Her wolf whispered, "She heard the scarf." Selene's wolf said, "She heard everything." "Yes," I said softly, "including the scarf." Sabine closed her eyes. Despite everything, a laugh escaped me. It was small and nervous, but real. Selene did not laugh. "You heard us call you mate." I nodded. The silence that followed felt larger than the room. Sabine lowered her hand. "Our wolves do not speak for us without meaning." "I know." "No," Selene said, "you do not." Her voice was suddenly rough. "You hear instinct, possession, fear, they do not explain choice." Her wolf whimpered inside my mind. "Tell her the choice is hers." Selene shut her eyes, as if she could hear the plea too. Then she opened them. "We have known what you are to our wolves for almost a year." I forgot how to breathe. "A year?" Sabine nodded. "We felt the bond forming. We did not know whether you felt it. So you treated me like furniture." Pain crossed Sabine's face. "We tried to create distance." "You succeeded." Selene stepped closer, but stopped beyond arm's reach. "We were afraid instinct would become pressure. You work for us. We are alphas. There are 2 of us and 1 of you. Every part of that imbalance can become coercion even when no one intends it." Her wolf whispered, "I wanted her every day." Selene continued. "We believed coldness was safer." It was not. "I know." The apology was plain and direct. That affected me more than any polished speech could have. Sabine looked at me, with none of her usual amusement. "I remembered your coffee because I wanted to bring it every morning. I kept your scarf because I was weak and selfish. I watched you solve problems no one else noticed. I fell in love with your mind before my wolf understood your scent." Her wolf went quiet, as if giving the woman space to speak. Seleni's hands curled at her sides. I admired you before I allowed myself to want you. When the board dismissed your ideas, I changed the meeting structure so they had to hear you. When you worked late, I stayed because I did not want you alone in the building. I told myself those were professional decisions. Were they? No. Her honesty struck through me. Sabine took one careful step forward. We do not expect an answer tonight. Selene nodded. And we will not claim you because our wolves chose you. Sabine's voice softened. We are asking whether you might someday choose us. Both of you, I thought. The idea should have been impossible. Instead, it felt like a door I had been standing in front of without knowing it existed. But beyond that door waited every complication they had named. Power, work, instinct, two women who had hidden tenderness beneath cruelty because they feared becoming dangerous. I cannot answer while I am your secretary, I said. Selene's expression tightened, but she nodded. You should not. I also cannot answer while Marin is preparing to destroy my career. Sabine's eyes hardened. Then we solved that first. The plan began that night. Our legal director copied the access logs to an external compliance server, and I re-entered the vendor archive under written authorization. For 4 days, nothing happened. The twins remained formal in public, but they stopped hiding behind silence. Selene admitted when she worried. Sabine returned my scarf in a silver box, and her wolf nearly sang when I wore it. I also learned to separate the women from their instincts. Their wolves said ours. Selene and Sabine said choose. That difference mattered. On the 5th morning, my access badge failed at the executive elevator. Security approached me with apologetic eyes. Miss Rowan, your account has been suspended pending investigation. The lobby seemed to tilt. Employees stopped walking. Marin stood near the reception desk. She had timed it for an audience. Selene and Sabine emerged from a board meeting above, escorted by 2 directors. Marin raised her voice. Confidential acquisition files were transferred from Miss Rowan's account to an outside address. Whispers moved through the lobby. I looked at the twins. This was the plan. I knew that. Still, when Selene's face became cold and official, the old hurt returned. Miss Rowan, she said, you are suspended effective immediately. Her wolf screamed inside my mind. Forgive me. Sabine's wolf whispered, she thinks we abandoned her. I met Selene's eyes. For 1 second, the coldness broke. There you are, I thought. Not the wolf. The woman. I removed my badge and placed it on the security desk. Understood. Marin smiled. I walked out of the building alone. For 6 hours, I sat in my apartment and waited. The original plan required Marin to believe she had won. The twins could not contact me. I could not access the company network. But Marin made one mistake. The outside address used in the accusation belonged to a shell company. I recognized the name from a supplier invoice I had reviewed months earlier. I searched my personal notebooks. I never copied confidential documents, but I kept handwritten reminders about public records and deadlines. At midnight, I found the note. Orchid Meridian Consulting. I searched the public registry. The company had changed directors twice. Its current owner was a trust. The trust administrator was the same law office that represented Marin's sister. It was suspicious, not proof. Then I noticed the registration time. Orchid Meridian had been created 9 minutes after my first access to the vendor archive. Too fast to be coincidence. Someone had prepared it while watching my activity. I called the compliance attorney, using the emergency number Selene had given me. By morning, we had a court-authorized preservation request for the law office's server records. At 10, the board summoned me. I entered the conference room without a badge. Marin sat at the center of the table. Selene and Sabine sat opposite her, distant and unreadable. Both wolves rushed into my mind the moment I entered. She came back. Our brave Omega. I took the empty chair between the two sides. Marin displayed a transfer log on the screen. Miss Rowan's credentials sent vendor documents to Orchid Meridian, consulting at 11:42 on Monday night. I was not in the building Monday night. Remote access. My remote access requires biometric confirmation. Marin smiled, which the system recorded. Selene spoke. Show the biometric record. Marin's smile weakened. A technician opened another file. The record showed my fingerprint approval at 11:41. I placed my hands on the table. I cut my left thumb on Sunday. Every eye dropped to the small bandage. The company scanner requires contact from the left thumb assigned to my profile. It could not have recorded a clean print Monday night. Marin said, a minor injury proves nothing. No, but the security camera will. The technician shifted uncomfortably. The camera footage was corrupted. Sabine leaned forward. Only the camera outside Miss Rowan's office. Yes. Her wolf growled. Marin folded her hands. This is becoming theatrical. Then let us be practical, I said. I handed the compliance attorney a document. Orchid Meridian Consulting was created 9 minutes after I opened the vendor archive for the first time. Its trust administrator is connected to Chairwoman Holt's family council. Marin's face remained calm. A public law firm represents many clients. Correct, which is why we requested preservation of its server records before this meeting. For the first time, fear altered her scent. Selene placed a second folder on the table. The preserved records show that Orchid Meridian's incorporation request was drafted from an account registered to your office. Marin turned toward her. You violated board privilege. No, Selene said. We followed a judicial order. Sabine added, we also recovered the original access permissions. Ivy was authorized to enter every file she reviewed. The screen changed. My authorization appeared beside Selene's digital signature. Then a second record showed the permission being removed 2 days later and backdated. The change came from Marin's administrator account. The room erupted. Marin stood. This is fabricated. I stood too. The construction bids were fabricated. My theft was fabricated. The shell company was fabricated. The only genuine thing in your plan was your belief that a secretary would be easier to sacrifice than a CEO. Silence fell. Marin looked at me with open hatred. You have no idea what these women are protecting. Selene rose on my left. Sabine rose on my right. Marin laughed once. Of course, this is not about the company. It is about the Omega. Every instinctive voice inside the room seemed to disappear. Selene's wolf said, do not deny her. Sabine's wolf whispered, choose truth. Selene faced the board. Miss Rowan's relationship to us is irrelevant to the evidence. Marin smiled. Is it? Selene continued. But because you are attempting to use insinuation as another weapon, we will remove it. She placed a document before the board. Effective immediately, Ivy Rowan no longer reports to either CEO. We submitted a proposal last week to establish an independent office of acquisition integrity under the audit committee. Sabine looked at me. We recommended Ivy as its director based on her work before any personal conversation occurred. My throat tightened. They had created a path that did not depend on whether I chose them. Marin looked around the table for support and found none. The directors voted to remove her as chair pending criminal investigation. When security escorted her out, she did not look at the twins. She looked at me. I held her gaze until the doors closed. Only then did my knees weaken. Selene's hand moved toward me and stopped. May I? The question was quiet. I nodded. She steadied me by the elbow. Sabine stood close on my other side without touching. Their restraint felt more intimate than possession. The board members left slowly. The attorneys collected documents. At last, the conference room emptied. The three of us remained. Sabine exhaled first. I have imagined this moment all week. Which part? I asked. Winning. Her wolf said, holding her. I looked at her. And the other part. Color rose faintly in her cheeks. I was hoping you had stopped hearing them. No. Selene closed her eyes. That is unfortunate. Your wolf has been yelling apologies for 5 days. Her eyes opened. She has poor emotional discipline. Her wolf snapped, liar. I laughed. This time Selene almost smiled. Then seriousness returned. The director position is yours whether you accept us, reject us, or decide never to see us outside this building. Sabine nodded. The salary and authority were approved by the audit committee. We cannot remove you. You planned all of that before asking me what I wanted. Selene's face fell. I let the silence stretch for one breath. Professionally, I added, and professionally it was the right decision. Relief passed through both women. I looked at the long table where they had defended me in public, even knowing Marin might expose what they felt. Their wolves had called me mate. But their actions had cleared my name, protected my independence, and placed power in my hands. I have conditions, I said. Sabine straightened. Name them. No secrets disguised as protection. Agreed, she said. No decisions about my safety without me, unless I am unconscious or literally on fire. Selene considered that. Can we intervene if you are near a fire? You may warn me. Sabine covered a smile. Agreed. I date you separately at first. Both wolves went still. I continued. You are twins, but you are not one person. I need to know Selene and Sabine, not only the bond between you. Selene nodded slowly. That is fair. Sabine's eyes softened. What else? No claiming language in public. Their wolves protested. Mine, Selene's wolf muttered. Ours, Sabine's corrected. I raised an eyebrow. Especially from them. We will try, Sabine said. Selene looked at her. We will succeed. And no one kisses me without asking. Both women became very still. Sabine's wolf whispered, ask now. Selene's wolf said, too soon. I looked at Selene first. She had spent 18 months turning care into coldness because she feared the weight of her own power. Now she waited for my decision with her hands at her sides. Ask, I said. Her breath caught. May I kiss you, Ivy? Yes. Selene stepped close enough for me to feel the warmth beneath her controlled scent. She touched my cheek with the back of her fingers, giving me time to move away. I did not. Her kiss was gentle. Not the fierce claim her wolf had imagined, not possession. A question. I answered by holding the front of her jacket and kissing her back. Her wolf fell completely silent. When Selene moved away, her forehead rested against mine for 1 second. Then she stepped back. Sabine watched us with bright eyes. Her wolf whispered, my turn, then immediately added, only if she wants. I smiled. Ask. Sabine did. Her kiss was warmer, a little less careful, but she stopped the instant my hand pressed lightly against her shoulder. Too much, she asked. No. Then why did you stop me? I wanted to see whether you would. Something tender crossed her face. Every time. I kissed her again. Outside the windows, the harbor lights came alive one by one. 3 months later, the Oralia Crown acquisition was approved. The staff kept their jobs, the childcare center remained open, and Marin faced criminal charges. I became director of acquisition integrity. Selene took me to museums and quiet restaurants. Sabine chose night markets and midnight bookstores. With each, I built something separate. Together, we built something shared. We moved slowly. The wolves did not. For the first time, their devotion felt less like destiny imposed on me and more like a future I had chosen. One evening, I entered the twins' office carrying 3 cups of coffee. Selene looked up from her desk. "You are late." Her tone was cool enough to make a stranger nervous. Her wolf whispered, "She is here. Everything is better." Sabine accepted her cup. "You forgot the cinnamon." Her wolf purred. She remembered oat milk. "Kiss her." I placed my own cup on the table. "I can still hear both of you." Selene's composure broke into a real smile. Sabine leaned back in her chair. "And what are they saying?" The wolves answered together before I could speak. "Our mate." This time, the words did not frighten me. I looked at the 2 women who had learned to turn instinct into respect, fear into honesty, and power into choice. Then I smiled. They are saying exactly what I chose.